Hey, UTSA fans. Welcome to episode 55 of the Hail Mary podcast. I'm the Toves, and I'm joined, as always, by my wife, Toves. We teased that we had something special for the first episode of our fall season, and here it is.
All right, we're joined today by a special guest, Coach Pittman, head coach of the UTSA soccer team. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. It's awesome.
Let's start out by talking a little bit about your background, Coach. I know you played as a goalie for 4 years at your hometown school, the University of Tulsa, which is now one of our conference opponents. And then you played professionally in England for a little while, came back and played at the Eastern Indoor Soccer League. Just curious, through all of those stops, was your plan long-term to get into coaching, or is that something that just kind of happened organically?
Yeah, that was not the plan. I can't say that I necessarily had a plan, as most college kids sometimes, but no, definitely fortunate. The club team I played on out of Tulsa, TSC, I was actually on the very first team, which now that club's been around for over 30 years, and is a very successful club out of Oklahoma. My youth coach, his name is Keith Eddy. He had actually played in the NDEB or NASL back in the 70s and 80s,
Oh, wow.
played for the New York Cosmos, played with Pelé, and Canelia, and a bunch of the storied players that played for the Cosmos back at that time. Won some championships. Before that, he'd played over in England for Watford and Sheffield United. Anyway, it ended up in Oklahoma, crazy enough, and became our club coach. And he was a tremendous mentor for me. Honestly, I come from a pretty small town outside of Tulsa that I grew up crazy enough. I actually grew up as a race car driver.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
My
right.
brother, yeah. So since the age of 4 or 5 years old, my dad had my brother and I in race cars, quarter midgets, and we traveled all up and down I-35 pretty much from Topeka, Kansas to Austin, all the way here. There's actually a track here in San Antonio. But anyway, so did that for a while for a lot of our youth, and just dabbled in soccer. And then was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to try out for this club team and made it. And then that kind of just propelled things from there. And so I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play at the University of Tulsa. After I graduated, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was actually working in retail sales as a manager at different stores. And, my mom always said I could talk to anybody. So it seemed to make sense. But yeah, crazy enough, I'd moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. Actually was working in sales there, doing some stuff. And a friend of mine came forward and was like, listen, dude, you need to get into coaching. And so I started coaching some youth soccer teams in Little Rock, some like U13, U14 boys. Loved it. Just, I found myself every day at work planning my training sessions and thinking about how I can connect with these kids and how I could do this. And after time, then that same friend was like, listen, you probably need to consider what it looks like to take the next step. And so I went back to the University of Tulsa and went to grad school and became a graduate assistant in 2001. So I've been doing this now for 23 years. I coached men's soccer at the University of Tulsa as an assistant coach for 2 years, 2001 and 2002. And then had a very, very close friend of mine who's still a good friend of mine. He's the head coach at the University of Arkansas. Was like, hey, have you ever thought about coaching on the women's side? And I was like, well, no, not really. He's like, listen, I think you have the temperament for it. One, there's a lot more opportunities because of Title IX opportunities in soccer back in the mid 90s. There was a lot more programs at the Power 5 level that were adding soccer during that time. And so, yeah, it was in 2003. I went to the University of Georgia as an assistant, and then got an opportunity at the University of Missouri, and then first head coaching job, Arkansas State, and so on and so forth. And so this trek has taken me the last 23 years. It's crazy to think I've been doing it that long, but it's definitely taken me all over. And thankfully, I've had a wife of 16 years that's put up with it and gone on this journey with me. So I absolutely love what we do, and the opportunity to just have a small little impact on young people's lives as they go through their college years is a lot of fun to be a part of.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the whole women's game, because that was a part of the question, was just like, wow, like what drove you there? But so let me ask you this, like, what one lesson that you learned during your time in college or pro soccer do you pass on to your players?
That's, in all honesty, to be fair, it's overcoming adversity. I was never,
Okay.
in fact, in college, I came in, I was fortunate enough to earn the starting position as a goalkeeper my freshman year. But going into my senior year, a freshman came in and took my position. And I'll never forget, that was a really hard spot for me to
Yeah.
be in. As a senior captain, and again, there's a lot of things that are attributed to that. He was flat out better than me. But two, I probably took my foot off the gas a little bit going into the senior year, didn't prepare as properly as I should have. And I left the door open, and I learned some valuable life lessons through that. Just lots of chats with my dad, who was a huge mentor of mine, and just was constantly about the perseverance and the challenges of going through that. And then in the pro side of things, same thing. I was never a starter on the pro side. Even in the Eastern Indoor Soccer League, I went in as a backup with just asking for an opportunity. And it's up to me as the player, and it's the same thing we talk to our players about now. All we can do is promise you is an opportunity. We promise, it's up to you what you do with that opportunity.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find yourself in various roles. I went from being a starter my freshman year in college to being a backup as a captain, and being, really, in all honesty, a supporter and a cheerleader on the sideline. And how I embraced that, and how I was taught to embrace that through that adversity, has really helped shape a lot of the things we talk about today in our program. Is that we have 30 players on our team, and 11 players play. There might be 5 or 6, 7 other kids that get to sub in, and then there's 10 or 12 kids every day that just stand on the sideline, or just tremendous cheerleaders and supporters. Everybody has their role, and everybody's got to own that role, accept that role, and ultimately be the best version of themselves in that role. Doesn't mean you have to like it, but in order for you to move out of that role into something else, you're going to have to accept where you are in the first place. And so we talk a lot about that within our team. We talk a lot about just overcoming adversity. We tell our freshmen, even when we're recruiting kids, like, this is going to be hard. I'm going to coach you extremely hard. If you want to be a part of that, awesome, please come here. This could be a great fit. But if you're looking for a place where a coaching staff is going to blow smoke and tell you how good you are when you really aren't, or pat you on the back because that's what you've experienced from your previous environments or what you get at home,
right,
then this is not going to be a good environment for you. In fact, it's probably going to be quite hard and miserable. But which is okay. Like, everybody chooses to raise their kids different, coach their teams different. That's okay. That's just what we do here. And that's the way I was raised. That's the way I've grown up in the game. And some of those lessons I've been fortunate enough to learn that I try to pass on to the group of players we currently have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to zag here a little bit. So
Sure.
Here's a fun question for you, though it pains me a little bit. Is it true that you're a Manchester United fan, and why would you disappoint me by being a Manchester United fan?
Yes, I am a Manchester United fan. Yeah, so sorry to disappoint you, Ben. Yeah, it's crazy. Growing up, I mean, as you would imagine, right, back in the late '80s, early '90s, English Premier League wasn't on TV back then,
right,
and right. So anytime you could find anything, it was maybe on the internet, maybe on TV, highlights here, highlights there. As a goalkeeper, I was a huge Peter Schmeichel fan. So he was the big, huge Danish goalkeeper, and I just loved the way he played. He just was bigger than life and a monster in goal. And so that's kind of what fed my love for the game. And then I was fortunate enough to go over to England a couple different times. And so kind of growing up at that point in time, I was when the '92 class came through with Beckham and Neville brothers and Nicky Butt and all that. And so that experience to be able to go over and see some of that. I spent 6 months study abroad in England, got to go to a handful of Manchester United games, and again, just fueled my obsession since then. So yeah, I've been a Manchester United fan for over 30 years. So it's not just as of late, although it's been very painful as of late. So
Look, I'm just gonna say that, I think it just hurts a little more because I'm an Arsenal fan. So, there's been some tough moments from when playing,
Sure.
Manchester United. So, but I fully get it. Like
At
Schmeichel.
least you're not a City fan. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to deal with you being a Blue City fan. So
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, well, let's talk about something that has not been painful for you, and that's just the last 12 months of UTSA soccer. It's just been absolutely phenomenal, from winning the conference tournament, getting to participate in the River Parade, the opening up of the field house, you signing a contract extension, and now we're getting to go into the AAC. I mean, have you really had an opportunity to just sit back and soak in everything that's happened and kind of enjoy it?
enjoy it, probably not. I feel like I've lost a few years for
Probably.
but no, you know what? Even from the time that Lisa Campos hired me back in 18, this was actually crazy enough. This was being from Oklahoma. I had kind of kept a pulse on UTSA over the years. We'd been living up in the Northwest for 8 years at Idaho and Gonzaga. And my wife and I talked about, we wanted to get back to the Midwest. We wanted to get back to this area. We loved the Northwest. It was beautiful, but it was just really difficult for family purposes to get our, we saw my parents once, maybe twice a year. I saw my brother and his family once a year. Same thing with her family. And so it was always hard because we are big family people, and it matters very much to us. And so the silly thing is, there was a goalkeeper that came out of Seattle, and we were recruiting her at Gonzaga at the time, and she chose UTSA over Gonzaga. And I was like baffled. And it was just like, why would this kid do this? And so I started studying, okay, what is special about UTSA? And I'd always known San Antonio. I'd been there. And so kind of just, and silly enough, selfishly, I then got the job at the University of Idaho. And I always thought to myself that her name was Bubba Michaela, who played here. And she's actually got some awards that are in my office and so I'd always thought to myself, they're a really bad team. She's going to be unhappy. She's going to want to transfer back to the Northwest. So I was keeping a pulse on her, like watching her. I was like, and I needed a goalkeeper at Idaho when I first got the job. I was like trying to, will her back to the Northwest. Yeah. But crazy enough, it just kind of kept me watching what was going on at UTSA. And, from the time when they built the facility out here at Park West in 2013, to continue and moving forward. And so when the opportunity came up in 18, I immediately applied. Definitely wanted to put my name in. The crazy thing is some people may or may not. I wasn't the first choice. I wasn't the first person they offered the job to. But that's okay. It worked out all in the right position and right situation, and it was great. And so I'm a big believer in core values. Coach Traylor and I are very much in sync when it comes to that, and that your culture wins games. The X's and O's matter. Your preparation matters. Your performance matters. But the culture is what gets you through difficult times and can push you over the edge. And so when we got here in 18, we sat down and developed some core values, and it was going pretty smoothly in 18 and 19. Progress was being made, and then COVID hit. And as we all know, for everyone in the entire world, things hit the fan, and everybody was kind of just, what do we do now? And in all honesty, out of that, one of the biggest phrases that I learned, there was two big ones. One was, you get what you tolerate. And that was huge for us, is that if our core values really matter to us, then we're not going to tolerate certain behaviors, certain training habits, certain decisions and choices and behaviors. And so we kind of, although I would say up until 2020, maybe the words that we had for our core values, which are team, grit, and integrity, a little bit were words on the wall. We were still learning how to live those out every day on and off the field. And through COVID, it really forced us to say, okay, is this really who we are? Is this what we're about? And I think out of those struggles that we had in 20, it really propelled us into 21 and then ultimately into 22. And yeah, I love being the underdog. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The fact that, you know, in all honesty, the fact that we've been picked to finish 5th in the division in the AAC going into this year just makes me smile, because our kids, we really have a culture and environment here. It's our kids just like, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. Like we'll let our performances do the talking and so on and so forth. And so it has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of hard work by our coaches, our players. We've gone through some turnover on our staff that has not been easy. But in every single situation, to be honest with you, Andrea, we've gotten better. We've taken steps forward. We have a certain language and vocabulary within our team that our kids only know, and they all understand it, that we have this mentality that we're going to solve whatever problems in front of us. It doesn't do any good to complain and, you know, moan about it. It's just get on with it, right? So yeah. So to some extent, yes, I've enjoyed every bit of this, but too, it's also been exhausting and a lot of fun at the same time.
Just curious if there was a moment for you last year when you're in the middle of the season or something that happened where you just stopped and thought to yourself, this team is different, it's special, and I know we can make a championship run. Or were you just kind of, believing the whole time and surprised all along the way?
Probably surprised all along the way. I mean, honestly, early on, we started off the season very well. I think our non-conference schedule was a good mixture. Obviously, great wins against Kansas State as our first ever Power 5 win. I thought we played really well, even in the exhibition game against Baylor, where we only lost 2-1. That some of that belief started coming forward. Had a few other big results where we performed well, but to be honest with you, it was a little bit of a roller coaster. I think we were playing really well going into conference. We opened up with Rice here at home, and we were flying high. We were like, okay, we were excited about this. We're hosting Rice. We need to get off on the right foot. And 10 minutes into that game, we're down 2-0. And we were like, ooh, what just happened? And so, but crazy enough, our kids reset themselves. Rice had 3 shots in the first 10 minutes and scored 2 goals, and we were down 2-0. They did not have a single shot the rest of the game. We absolutely dominated play, got one back, unfortunately fell short and lost 2-1. But I think it was an eye-opening experience for our kids at that time. Like, okay, like we are good enough, but we've got to basically we've got to ultimately get the results. And I think that helped. But to be honest with you, with 4 games left in the season, we weren't even sure we were going to make the conference tournament. Like we were floundering around in 6th, 7th, 8th position in the standings. And we were like a little nervous. I would say with the 4th game left in the season, we played Middle Tennessee. We absolutely battered them 4-0. I thought the team played as good as they have all season. But then we turn around and go on the road at North Texas and get absolutely hammered 3-1 on the road. And so it was just like this, oh, sweet, we've gotten over this hump. And then all of a sudden we get punched in the face. And we talk about the Mike Tyson quote that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
And that is something that's very true to our environment of, hey, plan A might not work. What's plan B and plan C? And what are you going to do when your back's against the wall? And that's really where we were with 2 games left with Western Kentucky and UTEP coming here at the end of the year. We knew we had to win both. And the craziness, so we beat Western Kentucky. I thought we played well, and we beat UTEP on Friday night. The last couple games are on Saturday of league play. And we are I am text messaging with the Western Kentucky coach, because depending on how the North Texas La Tech game finished, it was going to determine the seeding. Mm-hmm. I did not want to play North Texas in the first round. I knew we were going to run into North Texas at some point in time, but I didn't want to play North Texas in the first round because our games with them are just absolute wars. They're exhausting. And so if we had to play them in the first round, I knew it was going to take, again, win or lose, it was going to take so much out of us that we might not have much left in the tank for the semis and finals. Anyway, North Texas literally scores in the last 30 seconds of the game to win the game, all right, and beat La Tech, and moves us to a 6 seed to play the 3 seed UAB. Western Kentucky falls to the 7 seed, has to play North Texas in the first round and the 2 seed. And so everything kind of played out from there. But honestly, yeah, even going into the tournament, I knew we had a chance. I was excited to play UAB again. It was really a good contest with them. North Texas, our kids came out flying. Florida Atlantic, they came out flying. So it was a lot of fun to see us. When you look back and you go, we won 6 of our last 7 games.
Yeah.
There's part of me that goes, did that really happen? Because it did not feel like that. So, but yeah, we were very fortunate. We had some tremendous leaders last season: Kendall Cloza, Isa Hernandez, Lexi Bolton, Jill Schneider, Abby Castle. Those 5 seniors were tremendous for us. And even the junior class, now seniors that we have, we've been very fortunate over the last couple of years to have some really top end leadership that's taken us through some difficult times and seen us on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mentioned this already, but the rankings came out. We're picked 5th out of the West. I think a lot of fans, our listeners, they're going to be surprised by that, because we did win the Conference USA Championship. There's so many teams that we beat that came with us into the American Conference. So shed some light on maybe why that is. And then you kind of mentioned you're already using that for some motivation this season.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I think because we went in as a 6 seed in the tournament, and although we won it as a 6 seed, I just don't think people give us a whole lot of respect. I don't think we're the underdog that maybe we were, a couple of years ago, to where maybe it was, some people thought we were just a flash in the pan. But to be honest with you, it's very similar to what Coach Traylor talked about with his group last year, right? Is no one, the bull don't care, right? Like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what you did last year. It doesn't matter if you won a trophy. You're going to can you do it again? And can you stick to the principles and the day-to-day behaviors and choices and actions that are going to ultimately set yourself up for that success? And so, yeah, I mean, to be fair, the American Athletic Conference is going to be really difficult. University of Memphis is ranked in the top 20 in the country, went to the Sweet 16 and almost to an Elite 8 last year. University of South Florida is always difficult. SMU has been a storied program that's usually top 50. So not shocked by those teams being at the top of the, original voting. North Texas picked up a couple solid transfers in the portal. Rice, same thing, though they graduated a fair bit. They brought in some significant transfers. I just, Billy, and honestly, I just don't think people think a whole lot of us, and which is okay. I like that. So our players know it, they understand it. We're always going to be a blue collar, gritty, just tough team that fights all 90 minutes. And I think that's usually as much as even coaches now talk about, like, hey, you can't sleep on UTSA, you can't sleep on UTSA. I think some players in their minds, regardless, they're like, no, they're not that good, and it's just like, but I do think, to be fair, the bottom line is we lost a considerable amount of attacking power. Kieran Singh transferred out and went to Kansas State. Anna Suter transferred out and went to the University of South Florida. We lost Kendall Close at the back. There's some significant pieces there that we lost, but I'm really happy with our team. Been very excited about how the preseason has gone, and looking forward to getting started tomorrow night.
So just for our listeners, the Cheshire Cat kind of grin that Coach Pittman had as he talked about, oh yeah, we're this underdog. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So let's get into this AAC a little bit more. Because you did talk about right now, which is a great lead in here. You talked about losing, some forwards. Did that necessitate a change in your tactics moving forward, or is it just kind of like just continuing to bring in the right players and putting them in the right positions to succeed?
Definitely. I would like to think there are certain things in our playing style. There's certain things in our culture that are non-negotiables. We are always going to be a very organized, high pressing team. regardless of what our shape is, whether we're in a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 or 3-5-2, whatever it is. And we talk about our players all the time that it does not, our formation does not dictate our style. Our style and our personnel is what dictates the formation. And it's just starting positions for us. And so, yeah, we're definitely going to be the same team. We want to be better at what we do. What the biggest thing is we always press, we always disrupt teams. We don't want them to ever get in a rhythm. We're very aggressive in how we make teams uncomfortable. We pride ourselves on making teams uncomfortable, so that when the ball's coming to them, they're panicking because of the intensity in which we hunt to win the ball back. And that's a word we use a lot because it's not just one person hunting, it's the entire pack going, and that mentality. And so that's always going to be there, no doubt. What we are trying to continue evolving and getting better at is now making better decisions once we have the ball. In the past, it was safety driven, meaning we want to be safe across the back. We're not going to take a whole lot of risk. Let's put the ball forward and let's be aggressive in how we go and attack and create opportunities. So what we're trying to do now is just, okay, perfect. We've won it. Let's not just panic. Let's calm down. Let's connect passes. In fact, one of our preseason games against Corpus Christi, it was a 10 to 12 pass sequence from the goalkeeper all the way to the other end to score the first goal, that I literally looked at Ben, my new associate head coach, and I go, yeah, that's never happened. So
it was really pretty. We were there, and I was just, I don't know, I was just blown away. I was like, the evolution of this team and the way it's that moving off the ball, that there's been like this confidence with the ball. And so you're right. I've seen it too, in terms of being in the stands and seeing how this team has continued to progress. So it really is good to see. So let's talk a little bit about the forwards though. We talked about the departures, but we do, from the exhibition games, I've seen some good things from the forwards. Jordan Walker and Marley Frey, obviously returners that have, to me, looked really solid, really good, just they're into the attacking position. But I do have to call out freshman, Brittany Holden, who scored in both matches, right? So what have been your thoughts on the three of them as a group so far, and including any of the other three or any of the forwards on the squad?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite things when it comes to tactics is I love playing with a two front. I think when you can play with a two front and do it effectively, it makes opposing teams uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So many kids are used to playing against a three front as defenders, and so there's always cover. And what we're trying to do is, by putting two forwards on two center backs, is to make those center backs uncomfortable. And so really pleased with where we've gone with that. Honestly, one of the biggest, although she hasn't gotten necessarily on the scoreboard yet, but has been tremendous, is Alyssa Stewart. She's typically played as an outside winger, and we've now moved her up into a central striker role and playing back to goal. And she's been really good. Her movement, her energy, her fitness level is second to none on our team. And so partnering a player like her, that although she's 5'11", she's got good feet, she's smart with her movement, partner her with a Brittany Holden or a Jordan Walker or a Marley Frey has been a lot of fun to watch. The one thing Marley Frey, Jordan Walker, very, very good as back to goal, hold up play, being able to link other players underneath them. And so that's been really good. Marley's just a pure goal scorer, and so when we put her on the field, she, I think she averaged about 27 minutes a game last season in her role and scored 5 goals. So her goal to minute ratio is very good. So, she's always going to be in that role, give us 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and create opportunities. Brittany Holden, no doubt, been a breath of fresh air. I said it the other day, she's like a bull in a china cabinet. It is either pretty much first gear or 10th gear kind of thing with her. There's nothing in between. And that's what I love about her. You saw the goal against Incarnate Word. It was just, she put her body on the line. It like hit her in the hip and goes in, and she's just willing to put herself in places that others aren't. And so that's extremely uncommon. And I love that about her. She'll sacrifice anything and everything to just get on the end of it and score goals. And so she's been a lot of fun to watch. Other players that we have up front, Macy Geltmeyer, who transferred in from La Tech. She can play out wide or she can play centrally. Has been really positive. And then, we've got a couple other kids that hopefully will be back healthy soon. We've got Hannah Warrenkin's been dealing with a little bit of a hamstring, but the kid can score goals from Ridge Point over in Houston. So Tyler Coker out of Austin should be back soon. So we're definitely going to have a number of weapons up front. And I do think it's not going to be somebody like what we have had maybe in the past year or two, where it's only one or two kids scoring goals. It's going to be goals by committee. It won't shock me if we have 4 or 5 kids that have 5 goals each, kind of thing. And which is great, because that just means that every game somebody new is going to step up, and everybody's going to put themselves in the best position to help the team. And it won't just be one person that an opponent can focus on.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, again, seeing the style of play that you've had, it's just creating opportunities all over the field. Whereas before, it just kind of seemed like there was sort of a funneling. And it's great to just see how you continue that. So let me get to the midfield now, because I think it gets a little more fun here too. We already talked about Alyssa Stewart, which I just feel like just yelling out Stewie, because we do at the games. And then there's obviously Serena Russ and Avery Cheney, stalwarts there at your in the midfield. But I got to bring up again another freshman, Sophie Morin, who looked like to me as a sort of a box-to-box midfielder. But the way that she's kind of been sort of that pivot, she's looked composed to me. She's looked confident, and it's been weird. So I was like, well, she's a freshman. Like, how many freshmen come in and kind of do that? But she seems like she's really fit in with the team. How's she fit in with that midfield rotation in terms of and how you see her and any other players in the midfield?
So Sophie Morin is an absolute class act. We're very fortunate to have her. She comes from the experience. She played for Liverpool. She actually played for Manchester United as a youth player, and then eventually became So now she's been playing for Liverpool for the last couple of years. Was actually the captain of the U19 Liverpool team that won the league, and nice. And then she's also on the U19 Irish national team. And so she's just had a tremendous amount of experience that she brings to the table. So her intelligence and how she reads the game is very good. But one of the biggest things I love about her is she tackles like a truck. Like there's not, I mean, when she decides to go, when she decides, hey, I'm going to go close that space down, I'm going to go intercept that pass, she goes in so hard, and it's really, really good. And then on top of that, then she's calm on the ball. Once she gets on the ball, she's able to distribute and make good decisions. So she's been an exciting piece to add to that group. You're absolutely right. Serena Russ has been, Serena Russ does a lot of things that do not show up on a stat sheet. She's winning headers, winning tackles, disrupting. She is our destroyer in the middle of the park when it comes to just breaking up, team's rhythm and play. Avery Cheney has done very, very well for us. Came on at the end of last year, has started to find her feet a little bit more here. That's kind of Avery's typical pattern. She kind of starts the season slow and gets better as the year goes on. But she was really good against Incarnate Word the other night. Was pleased to see that. Olivia Alvarez is playing better this year than she ever has, and making a case for herself. And again, like you said, you can keep going through the midfield when you have players like Jordan Highland, who was injured most of last season with a quad injury, is back healthy this year. One of the other breath of fresh air has scored some goals, or scored a goal against Incarnate Word, has been Maddie Reynolds.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Maddie Reynolds. She actually, crazy enough, she is 9.5 months post ACL surgery, and she doesn't look. Yeah, she tore her ACL back in high school last fall, and has been absolutely fantastic. And she's limited on minutes right now. She's still regaining her fitness and her strength back. But the kid can absolutely smash a ball. So she can shoot from 30 yards out, 40 yards out. She took the free kick that scored against Incarnate. So, Michelle Polo, and then again, Michaela Cortez, like there's a lot of other players that can play in that middle of the park, which has been fun to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the exhibition game is really cool because you do get to see a lot of the players, right? Like you get a chance, and you see some other, like say for football, for instance, they don't really get any exhibition games, but you just know those guys, and you're like, okay, all right. But seeing all these ladies just step up during the game, especially during the exhibition, and seeing, oh, like wow, that's quite a crunch. Wow, that's it's like, it's just been a lot of fun for me. I just love soccer, so I love watching your team. But now I got to get to the defense because this is, as a former player, this is where I made my bones there, and so this is really to me the key piece to this, because I know you've talked about before how you're always going to be solid defensively. You're always going to make sure that you're organized back there. I gotta say, the line last year kind of read like a prestigious like law firm anyway, right? It's like the law firm of Hillier, Closa, Sandoval, and Dade. I mean, it was just I always just saw it as this imposing back line. And obviously you said you lose Kendall, and I loved watching her and Deja last year. Just, I mean, and I was a central defender, so for me, I always tend to see what those central defenders are doing. And I hate getting pressured, like you were talking about earlier, by the forwards when you get two of them coming at you. But one of the things that I thought was really cool about the way you've set up some of the things, especially from the center backs, is the fact that Kendall and Deja are so integral in set pieces. Yes. And the way Kendall was really crucial set piece wise, especially scoring that goal against North Texas in the tournament, which still rings in the back of my mind. But do you see Deja kind of taking Kendall's role or just expanding on it? And also tell us any more about any of the other defenders who are obviously returning.
Yeah, between Serena Ross and Deja Sandoval, and Alex Granville, that crew came in 2019 and committed to play here in 2018. And that's back when we weren't very good. Like we won 6 games in 2018, and then in 19 we were fortunate enough to go 8 wins and have a 500 season, but didn't even make the conference tournament, right? So like those players have stuck this out, which has been huge to watch them grow and mature and develop as people and as players. And Deja Sandoval is hands down one of our best athletes, and I think most of the time doesn't even realize it. She's one of our fittest kids, sets our record every year when it comes to our fitness standards. She breaks those records every year, and this year was no different as a senior. I think she was definitely appreciated having Kendall next to her, because Kendall was more the voice and the cog in the wheel in the sense of directing, whereas Deja could just be the best version of herself. And that's definitely something that Deja's having to grow in now, be the person that is directing and talking and making good decisions and, orchestrating everything around her, because Kendall had done it for 3 years. Deja didn't really have to. Yeah. And so now she's going to. Again, Sasha Dade, tremendous athlete. Just the biggest thing I love about Sasha Dade is she is an absolute fierce competitor. You tell her, you give her any sort of challenge, you give her any sort of opportunity to compete against somebody. And it didn't matter if we're playing a juggling game in practice, she's screaming at me about the score. Like, we're winning. I mean, we're fighting all the time. Like, no, you're not, Sash, stop, or whatever. Like, and so I love that kid to death, because her passion and her competitiveness is just fantastic. Sabrina Hillier, fantastic. Alex Granville, really, really good. The one that's been a lot of fun to watch and how she's slotted in has been Haley Lopez. Haley Lopez, transferred to us from Seminole State Junior College. Who's a Dallas, Texas kid. A lot of people, what interesting is how we spotted her is Seminole State came down and played us in a spring game, and they shut down our attack, and we tied them 0-0. And I was like, who is that kid? And I knew the coach, and anyway, he was just like, yeah, Haley Lopez, one of our top defenders. The very next week or 2 weeks later, they went and played another spring game against North Texas, and they sent me the film. And as soon as I saw the film, I was like, yep, I'm sending that kid a scholarship offer. Like, let me get that kid signed. And she's been fantastic. And what's great is Haley and Sash are roommates now, and they are both the same competitors. They're literally talking trash to each other in practice. I'm faster than you, or no, I'm better than you, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just, it helps fuel that out of both of them. And they've that whole, again, like you just named, all of them have been very, very good. We're definitely going to miss them one day when they're gone, but I'm trying to hold on to them as long as I possibly can. Thankfully, Deja and Alex are the only graduating seniors out of that group. We'll have Haley, Sash, and Sabrina Hillier back for 2024. So it's nice to be able to have that maturity come through and, teaching the younger players, because right now we have some really talented young players. Reagan Amberson, kid out of New Jersey, had knee surgery in January. She's very close. She just started entering back into contact this week. She's looked very good. She's going to be a very good center back. Michaela Solbach, Kendall Gunner. The other transfer we picked up over the summer or over the winter was Peyton Godby from East Carolina. She's coming along very well and can provide us a lot of depth across the back. And so, yeah, they're that whole crew for sure has been the backbone of our defensive organization and helping us be comfortable making teams frustrated, which is what we do well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, not that I attacked much as a player, but I got to tell you, I was when I watched them, I was like, I certainly would hate to be tackled by Sasha, because I was like, I don't know if I'm getting up.
No, she definitely goes hard. They they know it. We talk about it all the time. You either get the ball or the player. You don't miss both. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we're getting to the very back of the team, and that's obviously goalie. And as a former goalie, it makes perfect sense that you have this amazing talent in goalkeeper Mia Kuzinski. Are there any parts of her game that remind you of you when you played at that age, or nah?
She's way better than me. So she's way better than me. You know what? It's great. What I do love about her is she's, again, extremely competitive, and that's one thing that you were talking about it earlier. You asked me about, do we change our shape or our formation, our style based on what we recruit? And actually, I'll tell you, no. Like our biggest thing is we recruit high character, highly competitive kids that just work hard. And that will always be the MO. We tell every recruit that you are sitting here and getting an offer from us because you are in these categories. It doesn't mean we're the right fit for you, but if you choose to come here, this is what we can guarantee you is going to happen. And so Mia is one of those. She's very competitive, very detail oriented. Her biggest issue, she probably overthinks things sometimes too much, and I just need her to relax and go out and play. Because when she's freed up, when she's relaxed and just enjoying herself in the goal, man, she's big time. And that's exactly what she did for us in the tournament, as well as in the NCAA tournament against TCU. When she made 12 saves that night, she was just in the zone. And when she's relaxed and in the zone, she can make some big time saves and really help our team be successful. And yeah, she's in a good place, and excited about her, year number 2 with us. She's got 2 years left of eligibility, which is awesome. And we can have her between the pipes for a little while. But to be honest, she was dealing with a little bit of an injury this preseason, and it forced us to have to play our 2 backup goalkeepers, Isabel Herod, Izzo, and then Jasmine Kessler, our freshman. And to be honest with you, both of them did a phenomenal job. So the nice thing is that we know Colleen Pitts coming on staff has been fantastic. She's done a really good job of helping all 3 of our goalkeepers kind of settle into our style of play. She does a phenomenal job of finding out what does each one of them need versus coaching them on a blanket type, approach. And it's been really beneficial. I mean, Jasmine Kessler made 2 big saves, one against Corpus and one against Incarnate Word in goal. Izzo getting in the game against Incarnate did really well, controlling the game. So yeah, really, really pleased with where our goalkeepers are at. Definitely Mia is the clear number 1 for us. But I know that we have 2 very capable goalkeepers right behind her.
You mentioned Colleen Pitts and kind of some turnover in your staff earlier. In some ways, that's part of being a successful program, right? You get to be a victim of your success. People want your assistant coaches. So tell us a little bit about the new coaches that have joined the team.
Yeah, I've been very, very blessed, very fortunate. When we got here in 2018, I bribed, pleaded, bartered whatever I could to get one of my best friends in the business, Mark Hemans, here from Houston. He was coaching club out of Houston, and we'd known each other for 10 years. And somebody I thought a lot of, and the fact that he had already been in South Texas for a couple of years, it helped in bringing him on staff. And then I was able to bring Cameron Carter, who had been my GA at Idaho, back to Texas. She's originally from Waco. And so, for the first couple of years, that was our staff, and it was a good starting place. It was exactly what we needed at that time. All of us were really high energy people because we knew that we were trying to overhaul the culture and the environment. And so it was funny, after the 2018 season, Mark and I looked at each other as like, this has to be one of the most enjoyable seasons we've had in our careers, just because we had players that were just starving for coaching. We didn't do anything earth-shattering. It was just, we invested in them, we loved them, we tried to teach them and inspire them, and they came every day like, coach, give us more, give us more, give us more. And it was fantastic, and it was an absolute blast. But each of those next steps, when Mark left, I brought in Carl Goody. At that time, he'd been at LSU. He was with us for a year. He really helped, although it was a difficult season through COVID, he really helped in many, many ways. Cameron then left to go to Baylor, which gave her the opportunity to go home and work at Baylor. And then I was able to hire Brock and Ashley that we had, in 21 and 22. And then, with their departure, like you said, when you do well, people come after your people. Yeah. And so, and that's exactly what happened. I'd known Ben Williams for several years. Prior to him coming here, he had been the assistant coach at Miami of Ohio for 2 years. But prior to that, he was the director of coaching in one of the best clubs in Houston at Albion. He was there for like 4 years. And I knew him when he was a volunteer assistant at Oklahoma State. I'd kind of watched his trajectory, got to know him really well, recruited a number of his Houston kids when he was there in the club scene there. And he's just a guy that's respected across the entire state of Texas and beyond. But for sure, in the state of Texas, there's not a single club coach that he can't pick up the phone and call immediately and try to get interest from a kid. So he was big time. I tried to actually hire him right when COVID hit, but he had just taken the job at Miami of Ohio.
Okay.
And so then when Brock left, he was my very first phone call. I was like, how do we got to make this happen? Let's get you. Thankfully, his wife was ready to get out of the cold temperatures in Ohio. And she's a nurse. And so bringing her to San Antonio was good for them. And he's a tremendous recruiter, tremendous at relationship building. He's a phenomenal tactician, how he puts together game plans, training sessions, and it's been a lot of fun to collaborate. But it's also been a lot of enjoyable for me because I've been able to kind of take a step back and not feel like, to your point, Andrea, that I don't have to do everything. In the first few years, I felt like maybe I had to have my hands in everything.
Yeah.
And I've heard a friend of mine say this, is that as a head coach, it doesn't mean we care more. It just means we have to care about more things, right? As an assistant coach, you get to focus on maybe 2 or 3 things that you're really good at. Head coaches, we think of 30 things and that keep us up at night. But he cares tremendously. How he coaches the team, how he's prepared our team, how he's involved. It's been a breath of fresh air and easy for me to take a step back and allow him to kind of take some of the lead on that. And then Colleen is a name that had come to us when Ashley was departing. She played at Texas Tech. She's been the goalkeeper director in Austin for the last 8 years. And she's always produced really good goalkeepers coming out of that club, Lone Star. And so the opportunity to bring her here to San Antonio was a huge piece for me. She was actually the volunteer assistant at Southwestern. And the assistant coach there is a guy by the name of Felix Oscar. Well, Felix was my assistant coach when I played at Tulsa. And he pretty much told her, you need to go work for Derek. And so that helps knowing the right people, and hopefully them speaking on my behalf to what we're doing. And so, yeah, both of them have been really, really good. And then Peter Malumba, who we hired as our next assistant coach, he's a guy that I've gotten to know. Sorry, Ben, he's another Manchester United fan. Yeah, so
Is that why I hired him? Or? Just kidding.
But, yeah, he is a really, really good technical coach, a young coach in the business. So he does a really good job of helping our players with their technical deficiencies, working out our players that might be coming back from injuries. He's been fantastic. And then Joe Roberts, our video analyst, has been fantastic, helping us as we teach and use video to better educate our players. So, and then the last person that honestly might be the most important person is Shelby Dale, our athletic trainer. Yeah. She's been with me for 5 years. We pretty much got here within a week of each other. And the fact that I've had the same athletic trainer for the last 5 years cannot be overstated, to be fair. Like, she is a person that keeps our kids healthy. She's a mom, she's a sister, she's every hat you could possibly imagine for our players she wears. We have a phrase that we talk about, that availability equals winnability, and her ability to keep our players available for selection and healthy so that I can put the best 11 out on the field whenever we kick off has been huge. And so, yeah, she's been tremendous and deserves about 10 pay raises for what she does and how she puts up with me. So.
All right. Well, we're about to go into the first game of the season. You're going to be playing Central Arkansas. Tell us, what are some of the key things that are keys to victory for that game?
Just doing us, in all honesty, being the best version of us. Yes, we're always going to prepare for our opponent. We'll try to think of their tendencies and point out what they're good at, what they're weak at, what are their set pieces, what are they trying to ultimately accomplish. And so we want to shut those things down, but we just need to go out and be the best version of us. We need to be organized defensively. We need to press together. We need to attack together, and we need to keep our relentless mentality to just get on the attack, stay on the attack, pin them back in, hopefully, and make it extremely difficult for them to get out of their own end. And, you know, I think you saw it against Incarnate Word, and all. UCA is a very good team. Jeremy Bishop, Derek Nichols there on staff have done a really good job, been there for a number of years. I think probably at least 15 years or more, if not. And so they've done a really good job of continuing to build what they want that to look like. So it's going to be a new test for us, but it's really proud of our players and how we did against Incarnate Word. I mean, they didn't have a single shot in the game for the first 70 minutes. And anytime you can, you know, be that organized and that disciplined for that long period of time, we hope to be able to hopefully do that same thing against Central Arkansas and get the result in front of a big crowd on Thursday. Because, I mean, I don't know if you saw, April and Sarah is donating $5 for every butt in the seat. So I'm trying to get April to pay a big fat check. So
absolutely.
Well, we'll be there for certain.
Yeah,
for certain.
I appreciate that.
Real quick, I'm going to zag real quick. Who you got for the Women's World Cup final? It's Spain and England. I'm guessing you might go England, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it finally coming home, as they say?
I think so. Potentially, I guess, right?
No, honestly though, I mean, but Spain's gonna make them chase, right? Spain's been really good. I haven't watched a whole lot of their games, and I haven't watched the semifinals yet. I saw the results, but it seems like England is clicking on all cylinders as well. You know, I've been very impressed because I thought they were going to be really vulnerable at the back, and they've given up a couple goals. They've been able to, you know, find goals at the other end. So yeah, I can't help but cheer for England a little bit with my coaching staff, and I've always been a little bit of a fan. I think Spain's going to give them some fits, so it should be a good final. I just hate the fact that it's like at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I know that is a tough part.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you coming on. I know it's been a busy lead up. We've got one last question before we leave. You know, obviously I've given you a hard time about Manchester United, but I'll get over it. I'll still cheer for you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But as we close, let me ask you this. Looking back at your time here at UTSA, what word or phrase would you describe this time?
Oof. Um, I think for me personally, if I'm just looking at one word, it's been extremely enjoyable. This has been, I mean, I'm extremely thankful for Dr. Campos hiring me, giving me this chance. I knew that UTSA was a sleeping giant. What we're doing, where we're going, and how things continue to grow has just been a lot of fun to be a part of. It's been frustrating at times, but the players that we've been able to coach and recruit here, again, aside from the wins and losses and the championships and excitement there, it's just been enjoyable. I've enjoyed every single moment with our players. And because my wife and I, when we got married, I talked to her. She played soccer, and I said, "Do you really want to go on this adventure with me? Because who knows where it's going to take us, right?" So, I mean, I don't know if she really knew what that meant. She's originally from Denver, Colorado, but it's taken us to Missouri, Arkansas, Washington, Idaho, Texas, etc. And it's just been like, and she's been unbelievable. But it's like the way we do it is extremely difficult because we invest. We want the players close. We want to invest in our players and pour ourselves into them, because I think that that's the right thing to do. And that's how, but it's a really, really hard too when they leave. And it doesn't matter whether they're leaving for graduation or they transfer out or whatever the reason is. It still is hard. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I hope that my motto as a coach is love, teach, and inspire. And I hope that every player that ever plays for me knows that I love them dearly. And I tried to teach them about soccer and hopefully about life. And then ultimately, hopefully I inspired them to be better than they were when they walked through the door. And so if I do those things as a coach, regardless of what the results might be, then hopefully we've made a positive impact. So that's what we've set out to do in every stop, and more so here, probably just because I'm older and a little bit, hopefully a little wiser, because it's funny. People talk to me all the time. Like, so I got my job at Arkansas State, was my first head coaching job. And I learned real quick. I had no clue what I was doing. I may have known some things about soccer. I mean, but I knew nothing about how to manage people and hire a staff and do all those things. And so I quickly went back to being an assistant at Gonzaga as an associate head coach to try to learn those things. Like, okay, crap, I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was ready for it. So then going to Idaho, I was better prepared to win a couple championships there, and then come here, be able to do similar things. It's just been really enjoyable. When I look back, and you talk about how I've been able to soak it in, man, you mentioned it earlier. The riverboat parade was probably one of the coolest experiences because I got to sit there with my wife and my kids, watch my players just celebrate and bask it in. And man, it was super cool. That even getting up on stage and being able to talk to all the fans across the water, that was one of the, hands down, one of the coolest moments I've ever been fortunate enough to be a part of as a coach. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, Coach, really appreciate again your time. Hope everybody goes and packs Park West. Any last words?
Appreciate that. No, yeah, we need everybody out, right? I think the biggest thing for me is that when you come watch us play, it's enjoyable. It's not boring. It's the crowd, our bench is crazy. They cheer and they're loud as can be. We're going to play entertaining football, and the fact that we're going to be aggressive in everything we do, and we're going to get you into it. It's nonstop. Soccer. If you want to steal Klopp's, heavy metal football, I mean, that's pretty much what we do, and how aggressive we are, and the things that we try to accomplish with and without the ball. So there's going to be lots of shots. There's going to be lots of tackles. There's going to be lots of entertaining moments, and you won't be disappointed if you come out to Park West and cheer us on.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Before we go, there are 2 opportunities to see the soccer team play over the next few days. They will be hosting Central Arkansas at 7 p.m. on Thursday, August 17th, and McNeese State at 1 p.m. on Sunday, August 20th at Park West. If you can't make it to the game on Thursday, it will be aired on ESPN+, and as always, it is free to attend the games. Additionally, UTSA Athletics announced their inaugural Hall of Fame class. It features 4 former student athletes: Mackenzie Adams from volleyball, Devin Brown from men's basketball, Marcus Davenport from football, and Tamika Roberts from track and field. Additionally, Coach Larry Coker and former athletics director Lynn Hickey are being honored. Tickets to the induction ceremony will be available soon for Friday, October 27th. And all of the Hall of Fame inaugural class will be recognized on the field at the homecoming game that same weekend. Thanks for joining us on the Hail Married podcast. I'm Toves.
And I'm the Toves.
We'll be back soon with our fall football preview.
Birds up.